Shall I start?
So I think it's over to you, Declan, isn't it?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see a few familiar faces and a few new faces. But very sorry that we're not able to meet in person to enjoy the hospitality of Rushmore CAB, including cakes and other goodies. There'll be an awful lot of cakes one day for us to have, Alex, anyway.
Baking them all up.
So if you don't know me, I'm Declan Rowe. I'm president of the Rushmore CAB. I took over from John Debenham a few years ago, who we all of us know very well. What we have to start with, hopefully you've got various pieces of paper. They can be downloaded from the information sheet that came originally, but I have the minutes of the last meeting of the 2nd of December 2020, which of course was by Zoom, and also an agenda, which is in this AGM booklet. So hopefully you've got that. So looking at that, first of all, welcome and apologies. So I've given you the welcome. Now we'll look at some apologies. Now, Sarah, I've got some apologies here. Do you want me to read them out, or?
Yeah, if you're happy to. Yeah,
yes.
I've just got one more to add.
Okay, so I've got from members Steve Smith and Mary Harris, Jason Halliday, who was trustee, Joe Hillier, Citizens Advice, Hampshire, Chelsea Knight, trustee, Donna Jones and her deputy from the Police and Crime Commissioner, Paul Shackley from Rushmore Borough Council, David Clifford, the leader of Rushmore, and I think that's those I have thus far.
Yeah, I've also got from Mahendra Limbu from Gurkha Welfare, who's been unwell.
And we've just had a
Callum saying that Steve Masterson also sends his apologies. Okay, thank you. Thank you for people letting us know in advance. We now need to. Yes, I've already apologised for the fact that we're only online. So perhaps some people prefer that. They're just so used to it. It's going to be strange when we meet in person, isn't it? It's going to be bizarre actually being in a room together. Now, I've got to invite you to see that the chat function is available. Yes, there's a chat button there. We've already had one message. If you press that, you can leave a message and then Sarah will no doubt draw my attention to it, or anyone else. Or you can raise a hand.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that is, but anyway.
That's under reactions.
Under reactions, right, reactions. Oh, because you can do a dismal face if you want, or something like that, no doubt. Okay, we've heard that the meeting is being broadcast on YouTube as well. And those of you on that can also ask questions through the chat function, all right? So the first thing, unless anyone's got any immediate issues, is to look at the minutes of the meeting or the AGM on the 2nd of December 2020. Has anybody got any comments on those minutes that they want to raise by chat or otherwise? Right, nobody? No. So on that basis, therefore, I'm going to sign the minutes as being a good and complete record of the meeting last year, okay? And I'll send that to Sarah.
Thank you.
So that is, in fact, our first resolution. And now I move over, therefore, to Chair's report. Is that right?
Yes, I think so.
Thank you, Declan. Alex, could we get the slide deck up?
you can.
People can look at slides. It saves them looking at me.
Can everyone see that okay?
Yes, okay, right.
So you've got to do your
I've got to do my Chris Whitty bit, haven't I? Okay,
so
right, well, let's go to the next slide then, if we may.
So this was the agenda that we're following, just in case anyone hasn't got that in front of them. And then we've approved the minutes. And so here we are with Andrew's part of the slideshow.
So I think kind of most people probably know me, just in case if you don't. Andrew Levy, as it says on there, I've been a trustee since 2019. Had a very short experience as vice chair before taking on the chair actually in March 2020, so 1 week before the first lockdown. So my whole experience as chair has been during COVID, which has been interesting to say the least. As well as being chair at Rushmore, I'm a trustee of the Citizens Advice Hampshire Consortium and also a member of the National Citizens Advice Trustee Liaison Group. So I get a county view and a national view as well, which is actually quite useful. So next slide, please. I thought it was worth at the outset just doing a quick reminder of why we're here, what Citizens Advice is all about. You know, what are our aims? So that's what this slide shows. Hopefully these are familiar to everyone. We give people the knowledge and confidence they need to find their way forward, whoever they are, whatever their problem. We improve policies and practices that affect people's lives. We value diversity, promote equality, and challenge discrimination. And critically, we put our clients at the heart of everything we do. And I looked back on those when I was writing these slides. And as it says at the bottom there, I'm really proud to say that despite really difficult circumstances over the last couple of years, really, Citizens Advice Rushmore continues to meet those aims. Next slide, please. Okay, so we've been here almost as long as anybody in Aldershot. 80th anniversary last year. We have yet to really celebrate that, but we will get to that at some stage, I hope. So we are a constant presence in the face of change. Change is a bit of a constant itself at the moment. More of that in a moment or two. But we are absolutely at the heart of our community in Rushmore. We are flexible. We work hard to stay ahead, to manage change. And we will work even harder to make sure we remain relevant in the light of more change that's coming. As I say, a little bit about that in a moment or two. So as the little banner says there, for everyone for 80 years, that's a nice little strap line, I think. Next slide, please. Yeah, okay. So this is a sort of statement of the way we organise our priorities. It actually aligns with the National Citizens Advice strategy and divides into the 5 areas that you see there. I'm not going to read out every word on this slide, but essentially our core service is clearly about providing advice. So our priority is to improve people's experience of our service, making sure they can continue to access us, but access us in ways that suit them. Always remembering the most vulnerable members of the community. We have an advocacy priority, so becoming an even stronger voice. Matters that continue our research and campaigns work that helps us engage with our community, helps us with the work we do with an ever increasing number of partners, actually, and the way we communicate to our community what it is that we do. Technology is at the heart of pretty much everything these days. You know, we are using it to help ourselves, to help our clients. Sustainability, that's almost the word of next year, I suspect. How we secure and maintain resources, not least financial resources. Kay, our treasurer, will talk more about that. We have to secure and manage our funds effectively to make sure we continue to be here for our clients. And then there's the whole point about culture. Culture takes a long time to embed, takes a long time to change, but it's about being an innovative service. That's even more important in this day and age. It's about being a high performance service. It's about furthering equality, diversity, and inclusion. And it's also about our people. We wouldn't be anywhere without our people, our staff, our volunteers, our trustees. So developing the skills and capability of all our people is one of our key priorities. Next slide. So I chair the trustee board, and it's really important to me that trustees and Alex and her management team work closely together. We've taken to working under something that I call, a bit cheesily maybe, the 5S approach. And that what we're here to do is, as a trustee board, we're here to support Alex and her team. We're here to co-design the strategy for the service. We're here to scrutinize the way the operational staff serve our clients and engage in the community. As trustees, we're here to stretch us all, sometimes trustees and management and staff. So how can we do things differently? How can we do things better? And underpinning all that, which is why it's at the bottom there, we're here to make sure that we look after our resources, those financial resources, equipment, and actually people. So this is the way that we've taken to working together, and working together is absolutely key. Thank you, Alex. Next slide. So we've had the odd challenge over the last year or two, and this will come as, this is not news to anybody really. This year, as last, as I've said at the top, there's been dominated by the impact of COVID, and the words in the bubbles there we could have used last year. We probably did use last year. We continue to use them this year. At the bottom, it says we're seeing a gradual return to the office for some staff and volunteers in a very much managed and socially distanced way. We've undertaken a slightly increasing number now of face-to-face meetings with clients by appointment. And when I wrote these slides, we hadn't even heard of Omicron. Now we've heard of Omicron. So what the effect of that is going to be remains to be seen. COVID, I think, will continue to dominate our lives into next year, if not beyond. Thank you, Alex. Next slide. So what have we as a trustee board been up to? The list of trustees is on the right-hand side of the slide. I'm not going to read all those out, but you can see those there. I might be biased, but I think we've worked together very effectively to support the service during the year. We have pretty much monthly board meetings. So we've had 10 of those. We've had an annual trustee development day, and we have 3 committees that meet regularly: an executive committee, an audit and risk committee, and a health, safety and wellbeing committee. Trustee members join with staff to deliver our research and campaigns activity. A number of us have participated in a fortnightly COVID, now called Change Team meeting, to manage the impacts of the pandemic. We've supported the development of our future service model, which Alex will tell you more about shortly. We've reviewed how we operate ourselves against something called the Charity Governance Code. So how effective we are as a board is really important. And we do conduct an annual exercise to sort of do a bit of navel gazing and see how effective we think we are. We've looked at all our skills around the trustee board. We've completed mandatory and a fair old chunk of discretionary training as well. And last but not least, all the trustees worked very effectively with Alex and her team, and that's resulted in us achieving the highest standard in our internal quality assessment process. That's the National Citizens Advice Quality Assessment Process, and we've achieved the highest standard for a number of years now. So a pretty busy year for the trustee board. Next slide. Our key role, if you like, is focused on strategy and governance. But another key responsibility we have as trustees is to make sure that we're carrying out, the charity is carrying out its purposes for the public benefit. We've got some clear evidence of that. And again, Alex will tell you more about that and the value of the services that we provide. Partnership working is increasingly important. There's no doubt about that. And we're working in partnership with Rushmore Borough Council and other key agencies to collectively provide the support that our clients needs. And frankly, without those partnerships, and certainly without the critical funding that Rushmore Borough Council provides, along with many others, we just couldn't do what we do. So our thanks absolutely go to them. Next slide, please. We've done amazingly well during COVID. We will be facing more challenges, though, partly from COVID itself, which isn't on this slide, because, as I say, Omicron wasn't around when I wrote these a week or so ago. But we are already seeing, I've written there, a coming storm of demand. Alex will probably tell you that storm of demand is here already. We are seeing clearly increasing demand from our clients. We will be facing challenges on our funding. We're not alone in that. Citizens Advice throughout the country, local Citizens Advice teams will be facing challenges in funding. We are facing not only competition, but an increasingly commercial operating environment. Contracts that we are involved with are increasingly more like commercial contracts with performance indicators and service level agreements and penalties for not meeting them. So, we have to adapt to that increasingly commercial operating environment. And again, we couldn't do what we do, a phrase I've used once or twice and will use more, but we couldn't do what we do without our brilliant volunteers. I suspect we will be always having a need for more volunteers. So I think those are some of the, probably not all, to be fair, but those are probably some of the challenges that the trustee board and the overall service will be facing. So if we can go on to the next slide. Now this is very busy, but this is some of the planning we've already started to do to identify how we can meet some of those challenges. So I'll probably just sort of highlight the first section of each of these, but I have listed them all to show that there's quite a bit of detailed planning going on already, and there will be quite a bit more detailed planning going on over the next few months. But we are looking at our service model. Again, Alex will tell you more, so that we can improve the match between capacity and demand and try and find ways of meeting that increased demand challenge that I mentioned just now. What is the right balance between face-to-face service, phone, digital, etc. We will no doubt be expanding our digital offering. Everybody is, and particularly phone capacity. Some research that National Citizens Advice have done have said that right now the preferred channel for clients across the country to access our services is via the phone. They will continue to measure that, I guess, at least annually. It's all very well saying, okay, we'll expand our digital offering, but we have to accept that some of our more marginalized clients may well themselves be digitally excluded. Again, there is research that shows that people who do not have access to the internet or are not confident in using the internet are often those that have the majority of the needs that we face. I've mentioned partnering just now. We will certainly be looking to collaborate further, both with partner agencies and indeed maybe with other local Citizens Advice offices to make sure that collectively we can meet community needs. There's that second column now I'm on with. There's that, again, we need to widen our volunteer base. We will continue our community and campaigns activity. That's designed to try and prevent some of the problems. So that's important. We're doing a lot of great work in mental health provision, so we will be continuing to expand that work. Unfortunately, I suspect there will be more need for that. And equity, diversity, and inclusion, some people may think it's a bit of a buzzword, but it's clearly important. It's just not about our own staff, although it clearly is about our own staff and trustees, but it's the way that we ensure everybody has equality of access. And again, deliberately last but not least, probably none of the above can we do without diversifying our funding base. So we've identified the challenges. The trustee board will be working hard to meet those challenges, and along with Alex and her team. And these are some of the ways that we are planning to do that. So just a couple of slides to go, I think. So next slide, Alex. Just a sort of personal note as I almost come to the end. As I said, having joined as, or having been elected as chair, if you like, at the start of the first lockdown, I'm not going to hide the fact that being chair of a Citizens Advice these days is pretty challenging, but it has been hugely rewarding. It's about relationships. It's about working relationships with the management team, some of whom are here tonight on this call, particularly with Alex. Alex and I talk every week, and that's been immensely helpful to me personally. This may be an overused word, but I am humbled by the dedication of all the staff and the volunteers that we've got in Citizens Advice Rushmore. We are absolutely lucky to have them, and we are absolutely lucky to have the trustee board that I work with. They're a dedicated bunch of people, and they make my role very interesting and overall enjoyable. I've shown on the right there a number of the organisations, one or two of which I've mentioned, that my thanks also go out to those, because without their support in terms of provision of funding, we just could not do what we like to do. So, last slide. Thank you, Alex. So I guess this is my take on life at the moment. We are all living in a rapidly changing world. I think we're probably going to have to adapt to that changing world and change with it. The support we provide for our clients will be ever more critical. But, at the end of the day, these last two bullet points are absolutely key. Our clients and our community are at the heart of all we do, and we are here for everyone. That's my report. I think if there are questions, we'll take them towards the end of the agenda along with any others. So back to you, Declan.
Thank you very much, Andrew. That's very interesting. Thank you for the slides. We've been prepared to give us an idea of what's been going on. I'm going to move on, therefore, to the next part of the meeting, which is the election of trustee board members. I don't know if everyone is online, because I can't quite see, but I've got 3 new trustees. Chelsea, are you there?
Oh, she's given apology. She gave her apologies.
Okay, apologies, yeah. Gary, I think you're there, Gary. I'm sure I saw Gary on.
Yes, I think Gary and Gaynor are.
Gaynor.
Oh, they were, yes.
So respectively November 20, May 21 and August 21. So Gaynor, you're probably the newest member of the board, I should think.
Yes.
So, yes. Well, welcome to the board. I used to be on the board for a number of years, and we've had some. Hopefully, you'll be able to actually meet up. Have you met everyone on the board? It's all been virtual thus far.
I've met a few people in person, but yeah, we had the training day.
Good. Oh, I'm glad that
not everybody yet.
Well, you're working way around. That's good. So I think, Sarah, that in respect of Chelsea, Gary, and Gaynor, we've already had the voting on that, have we not?
Yeah, we sent out the obviously online voting, and everyone who voted in favour of them being
good. So, therefore, Sarah, we can treat them as duly elected onto the board formally now to follow up their presumably co-opted position.
Yeah.
Now. And then thank you very much for your support, everyone. Gaynor, Gary, and Chelsea, who's absent. We've got re-election of 2 trustee board members, Jerry Baker and Malcolm Cummins. I know Jerry fairly well from when I was on the board. Re-election, And do either of you want to say anything? Confirm that you are more than happy to continue in your positions? If not, then you.
Yeah, more than happy to continue to serve.
Good.
Hi, Declan.
That's nice to see you, man.
Same with me.
So fine. So, and is Jerry there? Hello, Gary. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to continue on.
Good. Okay, fine. Well, that's nice to see people, and therefore, again, Sarah.
Again, no, yes, everyone voted in favour of their reappointment.
So you are duly reappointed. How long are they reappointed for? Is it 3 years or something like that?
3 years, yeah.
Yeah.
3 years. Okay, fine, good. Well done. Thank you, everyone. Are you okay on numbers of board members, or do you need anyone else, Alex?
Well, I think the Audit and Risk Committee decided recently that we should have a programme of rolling recruitment. So watch this space, but
Okay.
recruiting to specific skills and gaps that we've identified on the board. Is that right, Andrew?
Yeah, that's it.
So, although we're not short exactly at the moment, we've got some really good skills on the board. I think it's sort of sensible for succession planning and ongoing diversity as well to keep that recruitment going.
Yes, you can never sit on your laurels, can you, Alex? We know.
No, indeed.
Right, okay, in that case, we've completed item number 4 and number 5, which are to do with trustee members. So we move over to you, Alex, and we Chief Officer's report.
Yes, thank you. I will just share the screen again. I think there's a way of maybe putting. Yeah, okay. Thanks, everyone. And just to follow on from what Andrew was saying, can everyone see that okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
To sort of reiterate what Andrew was saying, you know, having these volunteers and staff all around me has made my job much better and made it really achievable over the last year and the very challenging times we've been facing. I think this time last year we all knew that we'd had a tough year, but we didn't really think it was going to go on this long. And I think we're certainly starting to see signs of fatigue. Yeah, how much longer can we keep doing this, really? But I think that's the same across a whole range of services, not least health and social care. And it's challenging times for everyone. And in this slide, we've tried to capture the sort of issues people are coming to see us with, and that reflects all of those challenges that people across the local community are facing. And the comparisons, you can see the wavy line, you can see the things around financial services and debt and benefits, employment, that just shows the percentage change that we've seen over the past year between the different categories. So although they might not be a large part of our work, we've seen a significant increase in terms of the percentage they make up of our work, shown on the chart on the right hand side. So the numbers and the percentage change are the two different things you can see there. So basically, we're all working in a completely new operating environment now, and this changing demand pattern that you can see often mirrors all the government announcements and change of policy and change of entitlements that people have as well. So this is something that we're constantly having to keep on top of as we go through all of these different issues that people are presenting us with, often in very distressing and difficult circumstances as well. And I think particularly on the mental health side, we've seen clients who are very distressed and need a lot of support just to get to the bottom of what the issues are they're facing. So all of this new legislation around furlough and self-employment, and they keep saying they're going to stop it at a certain date, and then it gets put back, and you prepare, and then it changes again. So this is what all of our team have been having to deal with over the last year, on top of their own personal circumstances as well. But the great thing that we can offer to the community is that we do have these real-time updates on legislation. We are on top of it all, and our advisors are fully trained and supported to deliver that advice. And I think the fact that we are expert, timely and informed is a good summary of what that services we're offering to people, and really impressive achievements. These figures here don't include the pension-wise figures, because if we put those in the chart, it sort of distorts everything else, because that's a separate service in its own right. But they've also been providing an excellent service to people around their pension options. So that's in addition to this. So the impact of that work, is how we measure that financially. So over £6.5 million worth of new benefit awards and over £1 million of debt being written off. That's just in purely financial terms. I think the underlying issues from that is the impact that has on people's well-being, keeping people in work, keeping people sane, literally quite often. This is estimated at 574 million, and it's a, sorry, I'm sorry, the wrong figure there, 1.5 million, plus the wider fiscal benefits to governments of the impact of all that work and the direct benefits to our clients. So an overall value to society as a whole using these government based, this Treasury approved way of formulating your statistics comes to nearly £27 million altogether. So way in excess of any of the funding that we receive. So I think it's just worth sharing those figures and reflecting on those. But we are continuing to see new and emerging issues, and it's something that is happening all the time. You know, I think that's where some of this exhaustion kicks in, really, because as soon as you think you're on top of something, it all changes again as well. And as I said, mental health and debt, I think, are particularly distressing for people right now, along with the housing challenges that go with that. We're seeing more and more threatened evictions now and insecure housing, and people have made temporary arrangements during the pandemic, and now the moratoriums have been lifted, and lots of changes. And benefit appeals, I think, are still coming thick and fast through our doors. Difficulties with claiming benefits, and our help to claim service with universal credit has been especially important this year. One of the things that we'll hear more about later is around our digital inclusion work and how we've tried to address some of that through working with the community, but also working with Rushmore Voluntary Services and others on the new Sparko initiative in Rushmore, where we've been producing videos to reach out to people in the community who don't have access to the internet. So lots going on. Just to give you a bit of an illustration of that, though, in terms of our response to pandemic and the changing channels in this past year, with which is shown in blue. For 2020-21, you've got a little pink line here for the in-person inquiries, and so that but obviously last year that was much bigger. The majority of our work was in person, and now the majority of it is being done by phone, email and letter. So quite big shifts and changes we're seeing there. And of course that is the impact of lockdown. Conscious, you know, some of this was shared last year as well, and this transition to digital has really become embedded in our service. But what it's meant for us as a service is we've opened up new channels, we're looking at new ways of reaching people, and I think we've all learned from that, and some of it is really positive as well. It's not just about a story of doom and gloom, it's about saying, yes, we can do this, we can do things differently, and we've achieved fantastic things through responding in the right way. But the cloud technology and the way that people have been able to work from home using that has been absolutely essential. And the expertise within our team, in particular, Jamie, who's getting this live stream today, has been absolutely invaluable. And you know how we would have managed that without that expertise. It would have been a lot longer term and slower and not so expert, and it's been very essential to the whole home working drive. I've been really impressed by how volunteers have adapted to home working in particular, and the fact that we've been able to deliver that service and the way we've been adapting to that rapid change right through the year. It's been so impressive. So thank you to everybody who's made that happen. That adaptability, things that we never thought we'd be able to do, we're doing and taking for granted now, which is quite amazing when you think back to where we were a year and a half ago. So I think a particular concern, as Andrew touched upon, with remote working is about how we reach the most vulnerable, and that's people who are excluded because of language or literacy barriers, because of being facing disabilities or having digital exclusion, not being familiar with those things. So with some of the funding and projects that we're doing and the work of the volunteer team, we've been able to develop a lot more. And at the start of lockdown, some pictures here of where we produced 200 information packs in Nepali and distributed that around through all the shops and local services. And it was some fantastic work that went on with the team there. Just really got on with it, got out there and made sure that people received the information. We also, for that particular group, converting our Nepali drop into a Nepali advice line. We saw 600 clients, over 600 clients and more than 1,000 issues in that first year, just operating that advice line. So that's been a fantastically good service we've been able to do. And getting those posters and the mail outs to the wider community, making sure people know the services are there. It wouldn't have worked without that really focused help that's made it available and accessible to everybody. And you'll hear from Anusha later on a bit more about some of that work and how we've reached out to people. So we've been constantly analysing our data to make sure that we can see who is, but also importantly, who isn't accessing our service. And that's allowed us to adjust things and reach out to people more as we go. And we've done this work around overcoming barriers, looking at what barriers people are facing and how we can work together with partners. And that's something that's been the subject of our monthly meetings over the past year with a wide range of community partners. Been really, really important, really helpful and supportive to each other and finding out new ways of doing things and making sure we're all aware of the different services that are out there. So it's not just about direct advice giving, it's about making sure that we're reaching those people. I mean, one example of that as well is putting our postcards in the food parcels, for instance, with the Trussell Trust. So that was with the help of Rushmore Voluntary Services, making sure that they were out there and, you know, just something people could hold on to for when they needed it, with all our contact details on there. So lots of really excellent work going on there, and the scams awareness as well, which again, you'll hear more about later. I won't steal their thunder. So some of these new partnerships around domestic abuse, the MIX project, the mental health integrated care service, where we're developing a new service there, the local solutions work with Hampshire County Council, our community and partnerships work, and also what you can see here as well as Anusha is 3 of our Kickstart trainees who have all received training from us to go on to deliver service, and a new money and pension service money advice worker who's been able to pick up some of the slack on a short 1-year contract of the demand for money advice. The Police and Crime Commissioner funding has supported Anusha's work and is now supporting some domestic abuse work. So some really good new work that's being delivered with Anusha, Elisa and Prativa as well. And yeah, some great teamwork going on. And it's all about teams, and it's not just teams as we work together, but also teams online. And that's been the theme of our annual report this year. And we've all been looking at each other through these little video boxes. This is this group at the top here are our people who've been doing learning and development through lockdown. That's the new work for us, training our volunteers and paid staff without them coming into the office, which has been extremely challenging. And being in the office has proved very beneficial as they've gradually returned as well. So these are some of our new trainees. And then at the bottom is some of our Nepali speaking team. And on the bottom right is our PensionWise team, who've been working really effectively throughout lockdown, transferred very quickly to a remote telephone-based service. And all of that is underpinned by our business support as well. So great work going on across the teams, and they've been very supportive to each other, I think, as well as to the clients, and that working together has been very much at the heart of everything we've been doing. So I think, as echoing what Andrew said, you know, looking to the future, we know there's some big challenges here, and this is just some of the issues that has been identified nationally, that we're facing some really big increases and changes in terms of what the demand has been for our service. So food bank use and food bank queries have gone up significantly. by well over 10% in the past year. The withdrawal of universal credit in September is creating additional pressures on people. And issues such as credit store and store card debts and water and sewerage debts, council tax arrears, council tax reduction, all of these things are facing quite big increases in demand. And the combined impact of a lot of the changes we're facing are pushing 3 out of 4 benefit or debt clients into a negative budget. That's when their actual expenditure exceeds their income. So that has consequences for everyone, not just for those directly affected, but indirectly affecting the wider community and the sort of stresses and strains it's putting all the services under as well. So we know that we're needed more than ever, and this is something that we're constantly aware of and looking to improve and develop how we deliver our service to make sure we can reach those needs as effectively as we can. Just to give you a quick snapshot, this is absolutely bringing us up to date for this November. The in-person trends during this year up to, we just did this the other day, this reflects our gradual return to the office, which Andrew referred to. So we've got the, this is really about supporting our most vulnerable clients with appointments, with emergencies. So some of it's, instant stuff where people are in desperate need of food or fuel help and energy issues, that sort of thing. And also really addressing those clients who can't access us remotely. So whether there's language literacy or digital barriers they're facing, they are actually able now to get an appointment in the office. So we were delivering that right from quite early on, but we've seen this gradual increase. And I'd like to pay a particular tribute to those staff who've been supporting that work, because it hasn't been easy. And we've had to have a lot of procedures to make sure we're continuing to work in a healthy and safe environment for everybody, clients as well as staff, of course. So that's helping us to redesign our service model. So this probably won't make sense to a lot of people, but you can see the amount of work that's gone into this. And essentially what we're trying to do is not go back to the old drop-in service, which was not effective for anyone, really. It created pressures at the wrong time and unmanaged, not necessarily seeing the person they needed to see, but we're using telephone as the main access as well as limited face-to-face to get a welcome assessment, we're calling it, who can then divert people through to the right service for them, depending what sort of help they need. So there'll be a little bit of an assessment about whether they can access online support, and helping them manage their expectations of the service and understand what other services are out there and refer out to others if needed. So very much about working in partnership with the wider community, as well as helping our own service to be more streamlined and getting people to the right help more quickly. So there's lots of work here about sort of admin support and documents and consents and getting things signed off and dropping things in. And also, of course, email advice and appointments, and whether people need specialist help from our projects, as well as Nepali language help. So there's a lot going on in that rather busy diagram, but it's just to give you a sense of that. Of course, one of our big challenges is about hybrid working and how that's going to work for the team, but also learning from experience and making sure we're taking forward the positives from the past year and building on that, not just saying, well, we're just going to go back to how it was before, but continuing to focus on that core service, the one that says we're here for everybody. We know we're not necessarily accessible for everybody because we're so busy. We know demand outstrips supply, but also making sure that we really are here for the people who need us the most. And within that, we want to build our resilience as a service through creating these new roles and new channels for people to access us. So quite a lot going on, and this is just a really one example of the sort of reason we need to be here and why people need our help. So this person was self-employed, very regular earnings, just about managing, making ends meet, but completely dried up when the pandemic struck. He'd been staying at a friend's flat, but it was very informal. His flatmate said, you can't claim benefits while you're here, because he wasn't allowed to sublet. So because Dan couldn't claim benefits, he had no income at all. which meant he sunk rapidly into quite a deep depression and was just living on his credit card for 18 months, lost over 2 stone in weight, barely eating, very reluctant to seek help, barely went out of his house for a year and a half. Eventually, Dan's family realised how serious the situation was and took him to stay with them. So they finally coached him to get help from us at Citizens Advice. And he was on the phone for over 2 hours, but his family said you could visibly see the relief in his stance and his attitude. The weight was lifted from his shoulders. And he said that talking to that trained expert advisor who wasn't judging him and was able to map a way forward was immeasurably reassuring. It made all the difference to his self-esteem and, importantly, to his ability to take the next step. And he's now got a strategy for the future, as well as seeking help with mental health issues. So it's not just about his debt, there's a whole range of issues around there, but without having that person who was actually able to lift that off his shoulders, he wasn't really able to move forward. I think this really illustrates the impact of COVID on mental health and the seriousness of some of the mental health issues we're seeing now. But importantly for our team, and I'm really proud of our team, really proud that being open, approachable and non-judgmental is really so important, as well as having the expertise, but also for all of us to be as accessible as we can be for those who really need us. And within that, maintaining that reliable, stable service offer so that people know they can depend on us. So, as Andrew pointed out, this funding is what really allows us to do that important work. And, sincere thanks to all of our funders. This split shows that we have some very small as well as very significant funding streams. And this pie chart just shows them in order of size, but the size isn't necessarily the whole story. It's also about what we can do with that. And some is really targeted at those vulnerable groups as well. So, but they all add up to make a really important whole. So the Rushmore Borough Council funding, which includes that amount, includes our rent, our premises costs. That is our volunteer-led service, which gives us our stability and allows us to develop and gives us our platform, if you like, from which we can do lots of other things. We do charge the premises cost to other funding as well, but we've also got some nationally commissioned services, which is the pension wise, that comes down from our National Citizens Advice Office, the help to claim and the money advice. They're all nationally commissioned through government departments. And then the specialist projects supporting those more vulnerable clients, and particularly the domestic abuse funding, where we're doing really in-depth work, but also very importantly, the CCG funding, which allows us to really reach those clients who are in quite dire mental health situations, really experiencing some very severe issues and very complex issues as well. But I think underpinning all of this is the value of the partnerships and community engagement we have. And it's something that a lot of this funding has actually directly arisen from that partnership work, and that we're engaging with others. And because people know we're here and they know what we can do, it leads to other ideas and other developments in our service. So that's really important. And it's important for the wider research and campaigns and community advocacy work as well that we referred to. So that's a perfect segue to the Treasurer's report. But if anyone's got any questions on any of the things I've said here, we can leave that to the end, but I'll hand straight over to Kay from here, if that's all right, Kay.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Move on to the next slide, shall I? Oh, sorry, there's just one other bit on here. This is the clever thing we can do with this chart. So from the funding diversity, we can also see here, which is probably the better note to leave Kay on, that all the ones that are in pale salmon colour are our insecure funding. They're 1 year contracts, or we know they're going to finish soon. They're all the ones with question marks on them. So that's the other big challenge we face, is actually where we go next with some of these small and large bits of funding. So quite a big piece of work to keep all of that under control. So my thanks to Kay in particular for the stewardship she's shown on this, as well as Sue, who's our finance manager. So right, it really is over to you now, Kay.
Thank you, Alex. Right, can everybody hear me okay? Yes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so right, what we're looking at here is our financial results to March 2021. Now, this is a statement from our audited financial accounts. Columns 1 and 2 are split between our restricted and unrestricted funds. And restricted is where the funds have to be spent against a certain project. Now, column 3 shows the total results for the year. We had a total income of 977,438, with expenditure of 949,644, resulting in a surplus for the year of 27,794. And now that surplus has in turn increased our reserves. Okay, so what we're going to do now is look at those in more detail. So if we could have the next slide, please. Okay, now we've already seen from Alex's chart on how diverse our funding is. This is literally just showing a split between of that funding, what is unrestricted, mainly our core funding, and what is restricted. And you can see it's 45 to 55%. Okay. Now, if we then look at the next slide, when we compare our income with last year, there's been little change on total. However, if we look at the next slide, when we break down restricted income, what we can see here is that our funds from pension-wise have been reduced. Now, the main reason for this is because of the advice moving to telephone rather than face-to-face. Now, with pension-wise, they fund us for what our costs are. And therefore, because we've not had to, we've had a reduction in our costs because we've not had the face-to-face, having had to get office space, etc., and travel costs for them. Now, although pension-wise funding has reduced, what you can see is that we've had a lot of new funding that we didn't have in the previous year. And these are, as Alex has said, quite a lot of these are just one-year projects, but you can see that that's how our income has been the same as or similar to last year. Right, now I think we'll look at the expenditure. So if we go on to the next slide. Right, again, you can see the split of our expenditure is very similar to the income that we have in. Okay. So from the next slide, please, we just have a look and see what kind of expenditure we mainly have. And this is quite evident that we have 87% of our costs are staff costs, with 13% being other overheads. So our staff are our main they're our main cost, which you would expect. Yes. So then if we compare expenditure with last year, which is on the next, you'll see that actually our staff costs have increased quite a bit, but actually our other overheads have decreased. Now, the main reason for our staff increasing is we've had extra staff this year. Okay, we've also had a pay rise across the board. Okay, the decrease in the overheads relates again to pension-wise. Mainly, they're delivering a telephone service because of COVID, and instead of the previous face-to-face service, which involved a lot of external rental of meeting rooms and travel. So on total, we're about the same as the previous year, but as you can see, there is, when you go down, that our staff costs have increased. Okay. So this brings us to our final slide. Now, this is our reserves figures. Now, some 96% of our reserves are classified as unrestricted. And it's actually above our policy limit. We have a policy of how much we should keep in reserve, and at the moment, well, at 31st of March, we were above what our policy was saying. However, this has put us in a good position going forward. As has been said before, we do expect funding in the next years to be very, very challenging. And we do have a good reserve in our books to help us weather the storm that which we know is coming over this year and next year. So that's it really for the financial side. Okay.
Thank you very much for that presentation. It's very interesting to see that you have very good reserves and they're unrestricted, which is nice. I've got, therefore, to move on to resolution 7 to adopt the annual report and accounts. Sarah, how are we going to do with the vote on that?
Well, again, we sent that out, and everyone who
good, yeah,
everyone approved the accounts, which obviously were with the papers.
Good, that's nice for you, Kay. No, you didn't say anything counter to it, so that's brilliant. So we now move on to appointment of auditors. Who's going to put that forward, Sarah? Is it the audit committee?
Yes, they now rename the Audit and Risk Committee, and I think hopefully Joseph is here, and because Jason, who's the chair, isn't here. Yeah, Joseph is here. So
hello.
Thank you, Joseph.
In which case, yes, I'd like to put them forward as auditors.
Yeah, we did have a go through a competitive tender process.
Yeah.
So yes, they've been well examined and challenged, I'm sure. So yes, so it's yes, Menzies we're proposing.
Yeah.
So
and I think Andrew is probably happy to second that proposal.
I can do, yes. I think Gary was primed to do it as well.
Oh, sorry,
yes.
sorry, Gary.
So there's a rush of us to second that proposal anyway, so that's fine.
Okay.
Good to know.
How many of you are on the Audit and Risk Committee? About 4 or 4?
There's Sarah, Jason, and I. Is that?
Yeah. Jason and Joseph are the 2 trustees, and I and Rose, who's our training administrator, attend and help on sort of compliance and policy side, and general admin.
Good. Well,
there's also been I think there's been some involvement from others as well, just to kind of to follow up the appointment, hasn't there? So Kay and Sue have both had opportunities to input as well. Although they weren't in the formal decision-making part of it. So, and I've obviously had an opportunity to see it as well. So I know there it was a good process that went through and against some clear criteria. And nice to meet Janice here today.
Yes. It used to involve a lot of work. Yeah. Well done to you all. Okay, so there's no further comment on the auditors, and our thanks to the outgoing auditors, Brewers, who've been doing the accounts up to now. Thank you. So, if I may, I move on to number 10, which is questions and answers. I've got 2 questions that have been sent to me in writing, Sarah, haven't I?
Yes.
Shall I deal with them? Alex has sent a question. This is Alex Crawford from Rushmore.
I will do.
Are you there? Oh. Are Rushmore's advice able to support asylum seekers with advice they need? Who's going to answer that one?
I'm happy to answer that, but I'm sure there might be other members of the team who might want to come in as well. I think it's a very open-ended question about the advice they need, because all asylum seekers are individuals, so they all need different sorts of advice. But I think what I would say generally is, yes, we can give people our service in terms of within the parameters of our service, which would be things like general help with claiming benefits, understanding the system, understanding employment rights when they move on to work, managing money, understanding what their rights are, what life in the UK is about, and the sort of general citizenship questions. With immigration itself, we can only advise up to level 1, which, as you probably know, Douglin, is governed by the Office of the Immigration Services Commissioner, the OISC. So if people need advice beyond that level 1, where they'd need advocacy or more in-depth help, then we have to refer them on to another organisation. But that's to do with their immigration claim itself, rather than general advice about living in the UK. The other issue with asylum seekers will be about interpreting services. We tend to rely on Language Line for that, and we do have a subscription with Language Line, which works pretty well generally. But we do also have some staff members who can speak other languages as well. So obviously Nepali, but that's not quite so relevant to this question. Although I'm sure there are Nepali asylum seekers as well. But there may be other routes of getting interpreting services as well, depending on who we're working with. And we're regularly talking with Rushmore Borough Council about the situation locally. I understand there are more asylum seekers, refugees coming into the area. So we're keeping abreast of that through our partnership with Rushmore Borough Council and, of course, Rushmore Voluntary Services and others as needs arise. So I think the wider stuff is much more about partnership, but yes, we are here for everyone. And as I was saying earlier, here most for the people who need us most, I guess. So yeah. Does anyone else from the team want to come in on that question at all? Any other comments on that answer? Have I covered things, do you think, Elisa?
Sounds like you have. Thanks very much. The second question I had in writing was from Leslie Rosling, the general practitioner at Cambridge Practice in Aldershot, and in North East HF, what HF is?
North East Hanson Farnham CCG.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is now Frimley CCGs, just to bring us up to date.
Right, okay. And her question is, what are the top 3 priorities that can be addressed, which can help health and well-being in the communities you serve? What are the top 3 priorities that can be addressed, which can help health and well-being in the communities served by us?
Well, I'm glad we had advance notice of that question. But it's really good to hear from Leslie, because she does some great work in the Cambridge practice and helping with health inequalities. I know she's been involved in keeping abreast of the work we've been doing around overcoming barriers as well. So they do some great work in the Cambridge practice around all those health inequalities. In thinking about it, I would say, just from our perspective in citizens' advice, which I guess is how the question is aimed, I would say that supporting mental health and well-being and sort of connecting people so that we can help people overcome isolation is probably the top one that's coming out of COVID at the moment. And that's a big area of yeah, she's not specifically asking about inequalities, is she? So although that's her lead role, but yes, keeping people connected and keeping them engaged so that we can help address some of those mental health issues that are emerging now. I think that's probably the top priority. I think from our perspective as well, addressing the poverty issues and how that links to ill health, whether that's to do with material ability to actually buy the food that you need and get the things that you need to keep you healthy, whether that's, going swimming or keeping fit or actually getting a decent diet and everything else that your family needs. Fuel poverty obviously is a big determinant on health as well. So all of those issues around poverty, I would say, come very close to the top in my list. But also, I think more broadly, it's about building an awareness and understanding for people about how to stay well, how to access the help that they need. So reaching out to people to educate people about staying well and what support they can access in that respect. But I know the local health priorities are probably more around obesity and stopping smoking and that sort of thing, but I don't claim to have particular expertise on those areas as an advice service, but I'd welcome any other thoughts from the wider team who have been working with the community, if anyone wants to add anything. There's a pretty broad brush 3 priorities, but that's what came to the top of my list anyway.
Well done, Alex, for finding 3. Because when I looked at the question, I thought, well, I hope Alex has seen this question before.
If I could just add something. I actually attended today an online meeting with lots of organisations across Rushmore and Hart, looking at what can be done. Again, as you say, the priority was it's really around obesity in Rushmore, and actually those were probably the sort of areas that you've just mentioned, Alex, which came up as some of the main barriers to, people keeping a healthy weight and, an active lifestyle. Very much mental health, and poverty issues were very high. So yeah, I think it's sort of thinking along the right lines. And the other one, actually, when you were saying about supporting people, the other one was saying that, well, there's lots of different things going on around the borough, but people don't always know about it. So I guess the more that more that groups and things can make you aware, or you can be aware, the easier it will be for you to sort of signpost.
Thank you.
That's really helpful, Gaynor. I think as I was saying earlier as well, the joined up working with others, with Rushmore Voluntary Services, Rushmore Borough Council, really getting the messages out there and sharing the information and referring the clients between the different services is so important. We're just on the verge of we hope getting Rushmore signed up on this new ReferNet tool, which will help us refer people securely to the services they need. And we're very hopeful that that's going to stop people falling between the gaps as well. So lots going on, and I know Rushmore Voluntary Services already signed up for that as well. So yeah, working together I think is really important, whether it's health or any other issue.
Alex, yes, if I could just say that not having access so easily to general practitioners means identifying people with those issues that you mentioned, obesity, mental health, not so much poverty, but the side effects of it is more difficult. Yeah. And how you actually, inverted commas, get hold of people who need the help. Not easy, but I know that's not actually the task of the CAB, because we're not there to replace doctor's surgeries, but we need to be alert to those needs, don't we? Anyway, thank you.
Well, if on that note, if successful, we're looking to get some funding so we could put some free phones in doctor's surgeries so people can actually get straight through to us from the surgery as well. So I don't want to publicise it too much at this point, but that's one of the ideas we've got about reaching out to the community, because we know when people are at their doctor's surgery, it's often the point at which they're facing some sort of need or crisis in their life where they do need advice. So we're hoping that will help just make us that bit more accessible.
Well, that's good. Yes, at the point of need. I think, Sarah, now you come back on the screen, that those are the 2 written questions we had. So my notes say invite further questions. So I'm inviting any further questions from our participants, either by chat or asking. Anyone else want to ask anything? Say anything?
I see her too often. I'll follow up tomorrow, Alex.
Hey, Mike.
That's not like you, Mike.
Anyone else?
Nothing on the YouTube chat, Jamie.
Hello?
No, I haven't seen any come through.
If we haven't got any
Sorry, no, nothing on YouTube.
Nothing
Great.
on YouTube.
Thanks.
Fine. In that case, if we've got no questions, I therefore formally declare the end of the meeting. We haven't finished yet. That's the end of the formal part of the business of the meeting. And thank you for attending. So I now move away from there to an update on our community and partnership work in 2020-21. And I hand over to Who do I hand over formally to? Ivan?
Ivan, yeah, Ivan's coming first, and
Thank you.
he's not using a slide, so we've got the pleasure of seeing Ivan's face on the screen now. So.
Hello. Okay. So a lot of you are familiar with research and campaigns, often called the twin aim of the organisation. It doesn't get such a high profile as the core work that we do, but Carol Davidge-Stringer, when I started, summed it up as the core service is the cure that we offer, and research and campaigns is the prevention. And that's a thing that stuck with me from then. And we've done an awful lot of valuable work over the past couple of years. And you'll hear about two particular areas from other members of the team in a few minutes. But the team have done a fantastic job and achieved some great results for our clients and the wider community in Rushmore. And it's been a really exciting time, I have to say, to work with them and see firsthand innovative ways in which things have been done and how people have been reached. I've been doing relatively short time research and campaigns for about 5 years. I have to say, in honesty, the last 2 years have been the most interesting and the most exciting. What I really want to highlight today is the main change that's happened over the past 2 years. And that is something that will continue to inform what we do going forward. We changed our name to Community and Partnership, to Community Research and Campaigns 2 or 3 years ago now. But I think it's only this year that we really keyed into the community and partnership working. They say that an organisation that doesn't remain culturally relevant ceases to exist. And in the past 2 years, research and campaigns have remained culturally relevant. And that wasn't by accident, it was by choice. Each year in the past, we'd have a week's campaign on something like hate crime and scams. They were the two main things that we did, and other projects that we do. But it was all done in a very static way. We would have a market stall, we'd chat to people for a couple of days a year about one of those particular campaigns. We would, in terms of doing research, we would have surveys and we would speak to people, our drop-ins, but invariably be sending out a questionnaire or something like that. So when the pandemic hit, we had to find a new way of reaching people because they were at home. So we couldn't go into the marketplace, they couldn't come to us. And we set up subgroups, each with a responsibility to look at particular areas, scams, digital inclusion, and hate crime. And those groups, as opposed to, I guess, in the past, traditionally, we would meet once every 3 or 4 months, the subgroups were actually meeting once every couple of weeks and were really energized in looking at ways that we could reach other people in a more live way, really. So each of the groups worked closely with something called the Innovations Lab project, which was set up by Citizens Advice with the aim of implementing ideas and recommendations quickly rather than having to wait ages for something to happen. And it was a good example of how partnership working can be really successful. So the research and campaign subgroups would look at issues, make recommendations, and some of these were then implemented by the Innovations Lab. So such things as free Wi-Fi, that was something that was looked at by the digital inclusion team. The hate crime awareness stickers that are now can be found on buses was recommended by the hate crime subgroup. We worked with a project called Sparko, where we were looking initially at the digitally excluded, and then there's this other project that came about called Sparko that was looking at how people can access services across services in their own home via the TV, via just a remote control. So the issue of digital inclusion or exclusion becomes far less. They don't need a laptop, etc. So in those two areas we're able to work together. And with scams, we used it as a pilot, and we decided we wanted to move from that passive approach to things to an active approach. And we decided to run the hate crimes and scams awareness campaigns throughout the whole of the year. We've done this now the past 2 years. And the aim was letting the clients know in real time what was happening and what was going on, not just nationally, but locally in their area. To achieve this, we had to find a way for the campaigns to become alive and move on their own as well. So we started with scams, and we achieved it through community and partnership working and using the various digital platforms that are out there like Facebook, etc. We've set up groups, so it's not just us. When we look at our scams, Peter's going to talk about it later in more detail, but the scams project, it involves lots of different groups within the community, all involved, all inputting. But that allows us additional resource that's available to work when we're working with these other groups. It also means that other groups bring their area of expertise into what we're doing as well, and so we're not all repeating the same work. So actually you get working smarter, researching smarter as well. So the campaigns have been a great success, and as I say, central to all of that has really been the partnership working, and that's going to carry on informing what we do going forward with research and campaigns, whether that is on the research side. We've got these groups now that we can reach out to, and we can ask their clients, their contacts about their experience. So it's not just our client base. We've got such a broad base there now. If we're working on a particular project, we've got a list of groups that we are in connection with, and there may be specific groups out there that we can work with closely because it's akin to what they do or an area that they're working in as well. And so you're not repeating efforts, it's a joined effort, and that way you get a much greater result. Our scams is live. We have a Facebook page. It can inform in real time what scams are out there, what's going on, how to report them. And we're looking at doing the same with hate crime as well, and we're starting to move in that direction with that. And later, early next year, actually broadening our actual research and campaigns group to include other groups within the community that have all shown an interest and said yes, they'd like to be involved. So that's just an overview of what we've been doing, but really exciting, fantastic team of people to work with who are dedicated to what they do. And would also just like to say that we've lost quite a few people through the pandemic, but one of them in particular for research and campaigns who we've lost is put a large amount of input in, and people, when they go, they leave a hole, but we're constantly looking to recruit and find other people to join us. So if you're interested in research and campaigns and want to take part, we'd love to hear from you. In particular, if you're interested in the research part, topping and tailing research projects and things like that, and have a bit more of a detailed knowledge, we'd really like to hear from you. But I'll hand over to Anusha now, and she can tell you a bit more detail about the projects that we've been working on. So Anusha, if you're there, over to you.
I'll just do the screen share, Anusha, and then that might make it easier. But yeah, this was the introductory screen with Ivan, Anusha, and Peter, who were talking in sequence from each other. So shall I go straight to the next screen, Anusha?
Yes, please.
We wanted to start off with this little video, and I'll just make sure I've got the right sound settings on. But Anusha's just prepared this as a very nice, quick summary. Hang on a minute. Sorry, I've lost the shared sound. That's it. So hopefully you can hear this now of the work.
And I guess I just want to reassure really to say that we would take the reports really seriously when they come through. We at the front throughout.
मर्का त्यसै पर्यो भनेर चाहिँ मैले पुलिसलाई खबर गर्दिए र पुलिस
Namaste and hello. My name is PCS O'Neill and I'm currently stationed at Aldershot Police Station and I'm part of the neighbourhood policing.
Rushmore is a hate crime reporting centre, which means we can help you report a hate crime.
We in Rushmore stand together against hate crime.
Yeah, thank you,
I
everyone.
told you, Malcolm,
Yeah.
didn't I? You had another starring role. Okay, sorry, over to you, Anusha.
Yeah, thank you, Alex and Ivan. So, so hi, everyone. My name is Anusha, and so I hope you like the video that I prepared in a really short time. So, that video was prepared to show you the work that we did as a team within a hate crime. Just to give you an idea on what sort of like work we were involved in. And as a hate crime awareness work, a research and campaign team, our aim is to increase awareness of hate crime and increase awareness about hate crime and reporting methods and tackle reporting barriers within our community. And as you saw on the video, those were the actions that we have taken throughout since last year, since the pandemic has started. And so I would like to go through those very briefly. So next slide, please, Alex. Yeah, the recent one that we did was Cross Rushmore online event in partnership with our local police. And this has been really impactful online session, and we discuss about the issues that has been facing by specific communities such as LGBTQ community, Nepali community, and many more. And then also police has been such a help for us, has been supportive throughout, and they have talked about the reporting methods and the importance of reporting. And also we discussed about the reporting barriers and how we can tackle it, not just as a citizen advice, but as overall, like as in a partnership way, and also this was live stream, so it was not just limited to us who were involved in the meeting, but also it was widely shared on our social platform. So I'm sure this online event recording has been very useful for so many people in terms of finding what a hate crime is, what's the barrier, and what's the situation is alike in a Rushmore area in terms of hate crime. And then also this piece of work has been recognized by a National Citizens Advice, and we were mentioned on the Star of the Week page. And it shows that this event has been very successful for us, and we were managed to achieve what we have thought of. Alex, next slide, please. Yeah.
Sorry, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. And then also we managed to work in a partnership with Stagecoach Bus, like Ivan has mentioned earlier. So not just we put down the emergency number for hate crime to report to police, but also information emergency number for National Domestic Abuse Helpline, the Nepali helpline in Nepali handwriting, and then also about the free advice line number, and then reporting the number to report the scam and cybercrime as well. And as there was a massive increase in number since the pandemic has started. And then also we printed out 500 stickers, and it was displayed in 105 bus stops and 40 buses. And then also we have been confirmed by Stagecoach Bus that they have shared this information to 1,700 staff within their organization. And again, this is such an impressive result. And I think we had not had any links or partnership work done before with Stagecoach, and this has built the partnership work, and they are very much interested to work with us in partnership and do the collaborative work in future as well, in terms of raising awareness on hate crime or any other issues. Yeah, next slide, please, Alex. Yeah, thank you. And then also we released hate crime survey in October last year. So unfortunately, we just managed to get 97 people from this survey as it was online focused due to pandemic. But however, though it's a small number of people who completed the survey, but the result is really useful. The survey result has we found the information that we never knew. So such as 81% out of 56 respondents did not report the hate crime or incident to the police. And then also we come across the main reasons why they didn't report that to a police. And then, like I mentioned, we were not fully able to reach out to targeted audience. We want to reach out to more people, not just limiting to a particular community group, just a particular community, but also everyone who is likely to be discriminated because of their race, religion, sexual orientation, disability, and transgender identity. And with this, with our findings and work that we did within hate crime throughout since last year, shows that there is only one way to make this more impactful, which is a partnership approach. And we will definitely continue that partnership approach in future too. Next slide, please, Alex. Yeah, thank you. And then also we did produce several hate crime awareness videos with the help of volunteers, police, and the hate crime victims. So 3 awareness videos were produced with the help of our volunteers and staff. And 2 local police talked about hate crime and reporting method, and why hate crime reporting so important. That was talked through as well. It was both in English and Nepali languages, and it was shared and published across our social media platforms. And 2 hate crime personal stories were shared, and then which again increase awareness about hate crime, increase awareness about hate crime and reporting matters. And then also we talk about hate crime and reporting matter at Gorkha Radio as well. Again, in Nepali language, this one was particularly targeted to Nepali community, as due to pandemic, there has been a lot of anti-Asian hate crime going on. So we thought this would be a perfect platform for us to talk about this. And then also we delivered hate crime awareness sessions for our citizen advised ROSMO staff and volunteers. And yeah, so you all can access our videos and audios on our social platforms and on our YouTube channel. Please feel free to watch it and share it widely within your networks. And Alex, last slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So like Ivan mentioned earlier, Cross ROSMO awareness group, that's what we are hoping to go for, as we realize the partnership work is very important in order to create a more impactful work within our community for hate crime awareness. And we have already approached some of our community partners, such as ROSMO Borough Council, Gorkha Welfare Trust, local police, Neighborhood Watch, Stagecoach, Scam Awareness Group. They all are on board, and then we are still trying to reach more people and then carry this work forward from a new year. And then also we are planning to set up a Facebook awareness page. It will be not just a citizen advised ROSMO thing, but it will be again a partnership work. We just wanted to raise awareness about hate crime widely through the Facebook platform. So yeah, that's all we have been working on. And yeah, thank you, everyone. And I'll pass it on to Peter now.
Brilliant.
Thanks very much, Anusha. That's brilliant. I think. Oh, hang on a minute.
Right. Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me okay.
I'm Peter. I've been a volunteer at Citizens Advice for 9 years now, and I've been working on the research and campaigns work for about 5 years, I suppose now. So when I'm an advisor as well as research and campaigns. So about 1.5 years ago, as Ivan was saying, we actually sort of ramped up our work quite significantly in terms of communicating and what we were doing with our research and campaigns project. So the thing that I was looking at or working with the team was on the scams awareness. So the basic idea was to increase people's awareness about what scams are, how to avoid being caught out by scams, and then what to do if they're actually caught out. So there was a number of particular things we wanted to do. One was that we didn't want to isolate ourselves just as Citizens Advice. So we set up a cross Rushmore group so that we could discuss, excuse me a minute, I can't see the rest of the slide there. Let me just minimize that. Yeah, so we had a group, you can see on the slide, there's quite a few people in our group. So we involved Rushmore Council, Police, the Vine, Gurkha Welfare, National Health Service, RBS, Rushmore Voluntary Services, the Neighbourhood Watch, and Karuna Coffee. Karuna Coffee was a little enterprise in Aldershot that set up to help people so that they could drop in and have a cup of coffee and a piece of cake, and actually we could get all sorts of advice, not only scams but benefits and all sorts of things. So we had quite a wide-ranging group there. We produced some. I'll come on to a little bit more detail in a minute. We produced a summary leaflet. As Anusha kindly said, we mentioned the Facebook page. We set up the Facebook page, which I'll come on to a bit more in a minute. We've also done one or two, I've also completed 1 or 2 talks. So I did a talk to my local school of children aged about 10, 11, very, very surprised at how knowledgeable they were about scams. I think we had 90 children altogether in 3 groups, 30 each. And I've never seen so many hands up with tales about the various scams that they've found their parents have suffered. Their brothers have been caught out by being sold rip-off trainers and things like that. So they're actually quite knowledgeable. And the plan on that is to actually try to reach out to a few more schools, upper juniors and secondary schools. But obviously at the moment, COVID-wise, it's very, very difficult to actually get into schools to talk to do presentations. I've also done a couple of talks to local groups. One was going through with one of Malcolm Cummings's groups in Aldershot Church Group. And we utilised the wonderful Sparko system, actually. Sparko is actually available to residents of Rushmore as a trial, as was mentioned earlier, people over 65. So I did a talk about scams to a group of people who were sitting in their living rooms watching their TV screens and controlling their TV with their remotes. And in fact, they were very, very knowledgeable as well, which was pleased to see. And it's always useful to have a bit of an interaction so that people can talk to each other. So next slide, please, Alex. Okay, so the Cross Rushmore group, we have held a number of discussions, as I mentioned, with the group, and the idea was to broaden everybody's knowledge, get ideas from them about how we could pass on the information and so on. So they've been quite useful. We probably had 5 or 6 of those discussions. We've decided not to have any more online discussion groups at the moment. But we're planning to do in future sort of a newsletter whereby we will ask people in the group to let us know what the latest issues are, information, so that we can pass on to others and produce a newsletter. Now, because we had quite a wide audience, it actually enabled us to pass on lots and lots of information to a much wider audience than we would have done had it only been to us within the CAB. We have produced a leaflet which is quite comprehensive, and we managed to pass those on to other organisations. Next, next slide, Alex, please. So here's an example of the trifold leaflet that we produce. This is just one part of it. So this is the one side of it. The other side of it has got lots of detailed information. And that's been circulated quite widely, and North Camp Matters actually provided us with funds in order to help us publish this and circulate. And I think we've actually still got 1 or 2 of these leaflets left to distribute. And we've also got a few of the funds left so we can produce some more if need be. But they've been circulated not only in hard copy, but we've circulated electronic versions to other organisations so that they can print them out themselves. Next slide, please, Alex. And finally, this is an example from our Facebook page. We launched that back in January 2021, and it's been very, very popular. It's not only the people who have Facebook access that can reach it, but if you look down further down the page, you'll see examples of where it says people reached. Now, when people get a Facebook page post, they can share it with others in all sorts of different ways. So just going from left to right, the one on the left, top on the left-hand side, is all about trying to get people to avoid passing on their personal information. So stop giving people your personal information to guess your password and security questions. So this is a problem that a lot of people do when they go onto social media. They give away so much information. If they're not careful, people can easily find out where they live, what their names are, and so on. So that was one of them. So you can see that reached 1,845 people, that particular one. And one in the middle was around about Mother's Day, where there was a scam running there, where there was a delivery company called up saying they had a parcel. The driver appeared with a basket of flowers and a bottle of wine. And this was all very confusing for people. And they asked for £3.40 for the delivery costs because it's got alcohol in it. And what people did in the end was to actually end up giving them some of their personal details. A couple of days later, their account would have been hacked. So the idea was to get people's personal bank details, and that would have meant that their money would have been extracted from their bank account. That was widely circulated. So that actually reached 13,477 people. So that was widely, a lot of people got to know about that. And then finally on the right, Alex, her mum, Alex let us know that her mum had suffered a problem of continual calls, 12 calls over 1.5 hours. And she'd noted all the different calls she was getting, scam calls to her mother, which we duly put on the Facebook page. So you can see 552 people were reached from that. So it's been quite popular. Now, what we want to, for the future, we want to sort of deliver get more and more information going on to the Facebook page. We want to encourage people to send in information so that we can post more information. In fact, there's so much information on there at one stage, I actually had to produce a listing of everything that was on there so that people could spot what had been posted on the site so far. We also, as I mentioned earlier, we'd like to promote more talks about scams, and there is a way of we have a series of PowerPoint slides that are available, which will enable us to train other people to also give talks about scams. So it's been very popular. I want to obviously carry that on next year. One of the other things I'm involved in is working with the rest of the Hampshire group, research and campaigns group, where we meet regularly and exchange ideas about research and campaigns. And in actual fact, we've got a meeting tomorrow with other members of the other offices around Hampshire. So we'll be able to exchange ideas and help each other with things for the future. So that's scams. So thank you very much. Questions and any questions and thoughts on that?
That's brilliant, Peter and Danusha and Ivan. Thank you all so much for that. it just makes me feel so proud, really, when we see the work that goes on and the achievements of that group. But I think in particular, thinking about everything we've said today, it's really good to reflect on the innovation that we've had this year, and the fact that we've not only produced, we've all got much better at videos, haven't we? I've even done, with Jamie's help, a video myself to communicate with people, and we've sort of realised the potential of videos, and Anusha in particular has helped us to pioneer that, which has been fantastic. But also, Peter, as you say, having the old school stuff in actual hard copy leaflets, and the work that the Nepali team did distributing paper information in Nepali is so important as well. So well done to all of you for that work, and doing things in real time and reaching people in new ways is what this last year or two has been all about. And I think it's informed the wider service, as well as reaching people who otherwise wouldn't be able to find us. So yes, thank you very much for that. I'm just trying to get the view right. But, yeah. So I'm not sharing that screen anymore, am I?
Yep. No.
Okay. So I think we might have some questions from the floor. Has anyone got any questions? I see any hands going up.
I have
Anne's got one.
One quick question for Peter. Could you briefly explain what Sparko is?
Sparko. Okay, that's. Shall I explain it, Alex, or would you like to explain it?
I think you're probably better at explaining it than me, Peter, especially as you've been on it.
It's a piece of technology that I think was originally developed in Israel, believe it or not, and it's something that Rushmore Council are trialling. We have funding provided to help us, to enable us to trial the system. And I'm not sure how many people we've got, 20 or 30 across Rushmore at the moment. And they've got a year's subscription to the system. And what can happen is that you can use your TV remote to control your TV in order to access lots and lots of different sorts of information. So you can have sort of like meetings with other people locally who've got Sparko. You can do training sessions, and that was one of the things that I did. That I was logged on to the Sparko system just to give the people a talk. So it's quite flexible, quite a useful system, and it's on trial, and it's free to the people that are trying it at the moment. I think it's for the first year. But they'll have to make a decision. The subscription is not huge, but it does open up the opportunity for people who are sort of stuck indoors in front of their TV to be able to communicate with friends. One or two of the sessions we've seen have been language. They've been learning Spanish. They've been sort of doing bits of exercise at home online. The technology is very, very easy to use, rather than having to log on to a computer. Everything's controlled by the TV remote control.
Okay.
That's it, I think.
And how secure is it?
It's the whole thing's secure, and it's a bit like having a skybox or something like that, a little box underneath your TV, as I say, Peter said, it was developed in Israel, and it's absolutely fantastic. There's a historical Aldershot group on there, for example, as well, that meet and discuss what's going on in Aldershot. But you've got several pages. You've got a live area. You've got an area where you can just go on and pick out a video if you want to sort of look up something that's there. So you've got a static area and a welcome page, but all just with a remote TV remote control.
I think you can also contact friends and family via it as well.
Yeah.
So somebody's stuck at home with their TV, at Christmas time, they can get in touch with all their friends and family without actually having to use a computer and get tied up with all the complexities of using Zoom and things like that.
Can I just add as well that the criteria is that you have to be over 65 and live in the Rushmore area, that I think at the moment we are still looking for referrals. So if anybody have any clients or anybody that's interested in, then let me know and I can do a referral to RVS.
I'll put a link onto the RVS page as well in the chat in case anyone wants to know more about it.
But thinking about some of our, I mean, with the digital inclusion or inclusion project that we looked at, where lots of stuff is done online, but there are always going, as Alex was saying, those people that are not going to be able to access things that way. Something like this for some of those people that are under that age requirement would really benefit from it as well. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the future and whether or not it can be expanded somewhat as well to reach people that are socially isolated, either because of a physical disability, mental disability, etc. as well. That's where I think the isolation that COVID has brought about, this is something that can also really address, which is fantastic.
Thank you. I will look into it.
Yes, it's a good system. I hope it becomes more popular. As Ivan says, it's a good way for those people that are isolated at home to keep in touch with others quite easily using an easy system.
I'll put a link in the chat as well, and so everyone can see that.
Yes, I've been relying on Zoom for pretty much everything.
I think you can access Zoom through Sparko, can't you, Ivan?
Yeah,
right?
I think it's very versatile. I mean, and if you're interested, we'll speak to Lucy and we can sort of get you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I think Zoom, if you've already got internet access and you've got good digital skills, Anne, I know that you help people get online and things. So if you've already got internet access, I would suggest you probably don't need Sparko. It's really for people who struggle with that interface. But have a look and see.
If Sparko gives you longer than 40 minutes on Zoom, that would be a bonus.
Yeah.
Anne, on Zoom that you can always just re-log in again.
Oh yes.
I know it's a bit of a pain, but you can keep going forever with your 40 minutes.
That's
and if
right.
it's a one-to-one, it's not time limited.
Not timed on one-to-ones, no.
And it is Rushmore, isn't it? I think people living in Rushmore.
Yeah, it's Rushmore. Yeah.
Any other questions from anybody? Callum, did you want to say anything about the work the trustees are doing around community and partnerships? Or Malcolm, from a trustee perspective? Has everyone gone?
Malcolm's here. He's just on mute.
Here, I'm not sure as to. Bear in mind, I hadn't been involved much over the last few months due to my other area of service for the community. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to give an accurate picture. But I'm admiring from a distance because I used to be attached with the social campaigns. I'm admiring from a distance certainly the work that's been done by the team there.
I think it's a great area that trustees can get involved in. Obviously you can't get involved in the advice work, but helping us reach the community, as you have done by engaging with Peter to come to your church group as well. That's been really useful.
That was really, really fantastic. That was our women's meeting. So I was not necessarily locked out, but I decided not to attend. I can't go everywhere. But yeah, it was from my understanding really, really informative, really informative, and that they learned a lot. We will definitely do this again in the new year, definitely.
One thing, Malcolm, on that, I did try to send out a copy of the leaflet. And I sent an email to, was it Maureen?
Yeah, my wife, yeah.
Your wife. I sent her an email to your wife asking how many leaflets they would need. Can you give her a little prod just to reply and say how many leaflets they'd like?
Okay.
Not asking Malcolm to prod his wife, mate.
A metaphorical prod.
I will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that getting the leaflets out there to people, I think as I was saying earlier, the fact that we've got these multiple ways of reaching people, whether it's through social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, or whether it's on paper, or whether it's online or through videos. You know, it is great. And introducing things like Viber chat on our website to reach the Nepali community and stuff. I think the innovation and creativity we've seen this year has been really fantastic. So yeah, I'd like to really thank the team, and it's been great, yeah, in lots of ways, despite the downsides. Probably if there's no other questions, I can't see any hands up. It's probably time to end the meeting, I think. Declan, did you want to add anything at the end?
You're on mute.
Trying to get, I disappeared into a tiny little box on my screen. I'm not sure why, just as you asked me to speak to you, and I couldn't reach the button. But no,
it's the joy of technology, isn't it?
It is, yes. Yeah. I tried to have a look at Sparko TV just then, and that's because I'd never heard of it. And also, I hadn't heard of that scam about Mother's Day. That worried me slightly. So you're always learning things, aren't you?
That was a very seasonal one, that Mother's Day one.
Yes, perhaps we weren't in. Anyway, thank you very much for that last presentation, and to everyone else for attending this evening's meeting, those online, those who will look at this later or whatever, and those that have had to go. It was a very informative meeting, all the different ways in which you are linking to members of the community in Rushmore and beyond. It's amazing. So we look forward to the forthcoming year. Otherwise, I'd like to wish everyone happy Christmas, if I am able to at this stage.
Thank you very much, Declan. Happy Christmas to you. Yeah.
Quiz. Can I just mention the quiz before we go? We've got a quiz. I think it's on the 14th. If anybody's interested, just let me know, and we'll get you in a team. Partners can play, friends can, you know, if you've got friends, they can play, family, etc. as well. If you're not in, and if you haven't got a team, that's absolutely fine, because we put people in teams. But we'd love to see you there, and it's normally a lot of fun. Trustees won last time, so
challenges on.
Challenges on there. So yeah.
Thank you, Ivan.
So, meeting closed, do we, Alex?
I think we probably do. I think that's your job, isn't it? But I can actually press the button if you say when. And we'll stop streaming. You right with that, Jamie?
I've got you back again. Oh, big screen.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much, everyone. Thanks. Bye. Bye.